Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Mindfully Gay podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Jerry.
And this is our year in review.
Like a memorandum in memory
yes,
of.
in memory of. Right. We're just going downhill, everybody. No, this would be a good opportunity because we're in the new year. Well, it will be. At the time of this recording, it's right before Christmas, but this will actually drop after the new year. So we thought, like we did last year, let's just kind of take a look back and what we've done this year on the podcast and topics that we ventured into and guests that we had and just kind of take a look and just see where we are and maybe even kind of maybe not necessarily predict, but brainstorm a little bit, like where do we want to go from here? Where do we want to take Mindfully Gay?
Globally,
I know. Internationally, globally. Yes, we want to take this on the road.
Well, yeah, I know we're going to talk about the podcast, but just as you were talking, I thought, we should probably mention this. Like right now, we do 2 retreats a year, and the 2 retreats we did this year, we only ended up doing 1, right?
No, you're right. We only did 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was in September, and we had Cole and Hunter and some of their friends helped us put together these advertising things. But we had such a good turnout, and it was every time we get done with a retreat, it's like, when's the next one? And so I think one of the things we had always hoped would happen for the podcast is that it would feed and bring people to the retreats.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that. And then people who are coming to the events are all coming because they're hearing about it. When I asked them, how'd you hear about this? The podcast.
Yeah. And you've even run into this, and I know I have, just kind of randomly, either like at the gym or at some other kind of social event, you might mention, it's like, oh, I do a podcast. Or a person may come up to you like, oh, you're Jerry. I listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, thanks.
Like, get away from me. Security.
So it's interesting because people are listening and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
In fact, you just got this really sweet message from a guy in South Africa.
Yeah, it really was. It was just someone who stumbled across the podcast, probably on Spotify or something, and started listening to it, and has been listening to it for months, and has said it has really transformed me.
Yeah, helped him.
Yeah, where I just didn't feel comfortable in my own shell, and now I feel much more comfortable about who I am, and I can stand up for myself and be myself, and just felt so encouraged by some of the topics that we've had and the encouragement that we try to put out there. So that was a really nice note. You took the time to write a long note to us.
So shout out to South Africa. We love you.
Yes.
Thanks for writing.
Yes, thank you.
And then we have our 2 fans in Colorado.
Exactly. Hi.
Shout out to you.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks to all our viewers if you're watching us on YouTube, because I know you are, and those who are listening to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, so it has been a full year. It's interesting because when we brought all the titles together for the pod, I was like, wow, we did some deep shit.
Yeah, we did. We did about 30 episodes in 2025.
Yeah.
And at the time of this recording, it's Friday. We usually drop our shows on Friday. We're dropping episode 50. So listen to that if you haven't listened to that one already. 50 total episodes. Probably more because there were some episodes we did the previous year that were like there was like 2 or 3 parts.
Yeah.
And so there was certainly more. But about 30 episodes this year.
And I think my observation seems like the YouTube channel is getting bigger, and the TikTok, which you and I were both like, I ain't doing TikTok. We don't want to do TikTok. And every time we post something on TikTok, we just get such a tremendous response that I feel pretty obligated now.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah, it's thanks to the socials and those who follow us on the socials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's exciting to be part of this.
Yeah.
And I certainly hope, I hope that people are listening to the podcast, not deferring to us as some kind of authority or guru, but being provocative in terms of, well, how do I think and feel about these topics, or what's my relationship to it, or what angle would I take? I mean, I think everything we talk about can be so powerfully personalized.
Absolutely. Yeah, we certainly claim that we're not experts on any of the things that we talk about, but certainly have a story or some kind of reference or personal relationship with that topic or event or something like that. And we just want to share it with you just to give some perspective. And I have to say, and I even made a little post about this. I have a newsletter that I put out every week. And one of my newsletters was, I think it was something titled like, podcasts are my new therapist. And I wrote that because I do a couple of podcasts, this one, of course, and I feel it's eye-opening for me. I'm allowed to kind of express myself in ways that I don't typically, get to express myself unless in therapy, right? But to ponder about things and to have conversation about it and make me, see things in a new light and really expand my consciousness and awareness around things. So I feel doing this has been pretty therapeutic and certainly knowledge provoking and expanding.
Yeah.
I really appreciated doing this because of that. And I'm gaining something personally out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, me personally, I know everything, and so I'm not really getting it. No.
He's just here for the ride,
I'm just here for the camera. Well, one thing I always have enjoyed as a therapist is running group, doing group therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually thinking about this the other day, where I feel like the podcast is like an extension of group therapy. And so I do tend to have like this hunger. I'm just so curious about how are people receiving the information, what part of it is impactful, what part of it is debatable.
Sure. Right.
Or could evolve with more dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I enjoy it too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've touched on different things. We put together, like I said, we did about 30 episodes this past year and try to, categorize them in a way. And here's some things that kind of stood out as far as what we touched on a little bit. We certainly talked about things like reclaiming the body, reclaiming our body. We've certainly talked about sex and sexuality. We've talked about intimate touch. We've talked about kink.
Why did you tighten up like that?
Well, that was a heart. I was like, ooh.
Breathe.
I got excited. That's what that was. What else have we talked? We've talked about some deep emotional things. I would consider kind of some of the emotions that can be a little bit heavy, like shame and guilt, around certain things like coming out and things like self-doubt and comparing ourselves to other people. So that was kind of a big category that we've talked about. We've talked about relationships, being in relationship, and what that means, being in gay relationships, having straight allies. I think we talked about bromances. Mm-hmm. What other things have we talked about that stand out for you?
Well, what I liked about our list is where we had the themes that came out.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of surprised that this was the magic of AI.
Yes.
Taking all this information. I don't have my glasses.
I can help you out. Some of the things were like relationships and brotherhood, community and allyship, acceptance and identity. Yeah. These are just some of the things, shame and fear. Those were just some of the, themes and there was typically, maybe 2 or 3, even 4 or 5 topics, underneath those themes. What else? Reclaiming the body, I just mentioned. We talked about just moving beyond survival. That was one of the themes. Those were things like radical self-acceptance, just how we can really heighten our gayness, and really claim that as these fantastical, magical gifts. We've certainly highlighted those kinds of themes.
Maybe I'm not remembering this, but I think one of the topics that stood out as a theme was around shame.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How did they title it, though? I thought the way they titled it was interesting.
It was shame and fear, but there was...
the inner critic.
Yeah, the inner critic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about self-doubt. One of our topics was, I'm not tragically gay, and just, because I think one of the things that I think we focus on is not just the downfalls, I guess you can say, of certain things like shame or guilt or even just being gay in general, that we will touch on that because it's important to understand what are the rough points about that, but then to find, like you talk about, what's the antidote? What's the remedy? How do we move up from that or away from that or through that or live with these things as in relationship with shame or guilt? Yeah. How can they be of substance for our character and resiliency and etc.?
The thing, as you're mentioning that, going through that list, I was thinking, I wonder why it is we keep having that conversation. And I was just reflecting on exchanges I've had with clients and people that I engage with. And it's so interesting that I don't think this is just a gay phenomenon. How willing we are to accept our current circumstances as how it is. Right? And so this is just how it is, or this is reality. And
that's just the way that I am.
Right. And so I think in some ways, right, we, as, to bring it into like the gay identity pieces, that, right, we engage in narratives that are congruent. I can almost tell you exactly how a person is thinking about themselves by watching how they're behaving and how they show up and how they treat others.
How they treat others, true.
Right? Like you can watch, and if you pay attention, you can hear if there is a narrative that is driving the behavior, then the power that we have is reshaping the narrative.
Yes.
But in order to reshape that narrative, this is where I think like shamanism and magic comes into it, right? Is why can't anything be possible? And so when we kind of settle into those narratives around shame and guilt, or we just kind of incorporate that into a piece of our identity and just believe that that's how it's supposed to be, right? Then we've agreed with the wizard that's cast that spell.
Yes. Yeah.
And so what happens when we cast our own spell that says, no, I get to be beyond this.
Right.
Or I'm going to be beyond this.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of our conversation, especially when we've talked about things like that, is to remind each other, because I think it certainly reminds me, but hopefully those that are listening, to remind ourselves that we do have magical powers. We are very powerful beings, and that we don't have to settle, that we don't have to just kind of be in this whatever it is, especially if you feel like, well, if there's a glimmer of potential, if there's a glimmer of something different, well, if there's even a glimmer, let's see if we can brighten that light somehow. Move through that pathway, pass through that doorway, see into the light and power and dynamic of what could be and what is really your truth, your actual truth.
Well, and I think that's the power of the retreats, is people start exploring outside of paradigms that they haven't, most people have not been to a sweat lodge, right? And it's interesting, right? The stories that people cast about a sweat lodge, how difficult it's going to be, how hard it is. I can't sit. I can't do the heat, right? All of that is about casting spells. Mm-hmm. But when they go in and they have this experience, then they come out, it's like, wow, look at what I did.
Yeah.
Look how powerful I am. Look how, if I can challenge that, what's the other possibilities?
What are the other possibilities?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also the communal. I think what happens is a lot of us get locked in our hamster wheel. And until we really start associating with others and dialoguing and having shared experiences, right? Like we see ourselves in each other.
Yeah. Yes. I think what's happening, it comes through, I think, with the podcast, with the retreats, and something like a sweat lodge. We're casting out the spell of what if, or because we're touching on things or asking questions that people don't think to ask themselves or each other. And so when we pose those questions, it really gets the wheels turning. And then we offer a retreat and offer these different activities, really. Because, when do you normally and regularly go to a sweat lodge? When do you normally and regularly do a pipe ceremony or do a doll ceremony where you write all of your deepest, darkest feelings on a thing and have a conversation about it? When do you get to do that?
Yeah.
Right? And so when we offer these different aspects and alternatives, so to speak, it gets the wheels turning in your head and hopefully in your heart too. Like, maybe there is something here.
Yeah. The reason that title caught my attention, right, is I start to imagine what if our existence was that place of complete permission to show up and exist, that in a way that feels authentic, right? And the way that we've been squashed has been through the narratives of shame and guilt and worthiness or whatever, right? And then we buy into it. Imagine the power our community would have if we let go of that. Mm-hmm. If our gossip was about how powerful we were, as opposed to what we wore at the club.
Yeah. And what came to mind when you said that was because, we do buy into it. There's like this blob of just conformity around this thing. But then I think there are those outliers out there, whether they might be in the media and TV or movie or whatever, or even just in your community. They really stand out. They are so different from the norm. And I see them as very powerful beings as well. Those are the wizards that we really need to be watching and emulating, perhaps, because I think they don't conform. Right. They are not part of this narrative. They've written their own story and are moving forward with it. And if those folks can be highlighted and brought into, especially in our gay history and gay narrative, et cetera, and see those folks, I don't know, maybe that spell can be uncast or dispelled.
We create a new story.
Create a new story. That dark cloud can dissipate.
Well, and I was just thinking about our guest. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't remember all of them, but I do remember that they all seem to come in or participate with an eagerness to have the conversation. And in most cases, they had already been giving thought to the conversation. Like Travis or Shay or
Sergio or the guys from Morning Wood. And who else did we have? Mr. X.
Mr. X.
Yeah. We've had some really dynamic guests who are giving us opportunities and pathways to change the narrative.
And I would say they're pioneers.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is I think each of them is trying to, how do we bring something into the light, kind of a deal, which is probably how they got a hold of us and we got a hold of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think they're good examples of what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, just those outliers. And I'm just kind of thinking ahead now. It'd be nice to have more of those kinds of folks, more of those wizards, more of those folks who are, beating
the drum.
Beating the drum. Forgot the term.
Are you talking about Mr. X?
Yes. Who are, going beyond that normative value of what we're experiencing, the buying into those narratives. If we can get more folks like that on the show for you guys to listen to, our listeners to be witness to and to experience, hopefully you'll experience something like that gentleman in South Africa where something clicks.
Yeah.
And yes, I am incredible. I am magical. I am powerful. I accept myself for who I am today.
Yeah. One thing I would love for us to do in 26, and I'm thinking of it in terms of like town hall.
Yeah.
But I would love to get, of course, we're very limited. We have an iPhone and these 2 mics. Maybe we just need to buy a studio.
Buy a studio. Well, I'll just say this because I've been looking at, just getting, we're pretty, low key and low budget, but I'm thinking about getting some actual podcast mics.
Oh, really? I've been looking too. It's interesting. He said we have a low budget. We have a budget? You holding out?
$34.95.
But I think it would be fun. Get a roving mic, because I would love for us to be able to do like, I maybe even thinking of doing it quarterly, where we get, maybe it would be interesting to get like anyone 30 and under, like from 18 to 30, and then maybe a group of guys 30 to 40. It would be interesting to do some kind of town hall with gay men. And maybe it would just be like 4 to 6 guys, but it would be nice to get the synergy of a circle to bring up, like, what would be your sense of what is needed in the gay community today? What are you looking for that fits a body, mind, spirit concept? And just kind of, what would you say are the key issues to gay identity in 2026?
Yeah.
It would just be interesting to kind of have some talking points and just stimulate some conversation, which could be good feedback for us in terms of future episodes. But I would love for us to figure out, like, I love it when we have guests. I sometimes wish we had better relationships with the guests, because like you and I, like, we can go like down the rabbit's hole in an instant. And sometimes with some of the guests, it takes us a minute to kind of get warmed up and to get in there. You and I have been doing this for 2 years now, and so we're very transparent. But I think when I describe the podcast to people, that's what I tell them when they come in. It's like, listen to a couple of episodes, because there's no script. We're just having conversation. We're very vulnerable and transparent, because we want to model that on the show so that people can begin to give themselves invitations and permission to do the deep dive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that idea of like a town hall or just small groups. It could just be, like you said, 3 or 4 or 5 guys. And I like that intergenerational aspect. That's kind of the younger population and what they're seeing and wanting and desiring in their community, what they see as important, et cetera, and just kind of move up the line there. I like that. It was a while ago. This was some time ago. Because we have all these ideas. We have a long list of just topics and ideas that we haven't gotten to yet. And there was one you mentioned was, kind of like a roving reporter, just, gay on the street, and have a mic and and just kind of ask a question to, certain people, like be at Pride or something, and and ask.
Well, we're thinking of going back to Provincetown. In June.
Ooh, fun.
Come with us.
Yes.
But I thought, okay, this year, now that I know the layout, that'll be interesting.
That would be fun.
Just grab people.
Yeah.
But yeah, at Pride or Provincetown, just anywhere where we're going to find gay folks.
Yeah, because it is, because like you said, it's just us, and we can kind of, play off each other, and we know kind of how we think, but how others think. We certainly can't assume what you think and know and feel and are experiencing out there. We're only going off our experiences. And so by having a small group discussion or bringing in guests or doing a person on the street kind of a thing, I think it'll bring in more of a perspective of what's going on out there and how people are, walking their walk and living their lives in the times that we're in right now.
Yeah. I'm curious. I know you track YouTube and I'm tracking Instagram and TikTok. Can you think of any particular episodes that seem to get a lot more hits?
It's interesting. The ones that seem to get the hits seem to be, I guess, perceived as the most controversial.
Like what? What do we talk about that's controversial?
Well, because we had the intergenerational conversation with our two young people who happen to be trans, right? And so that got a lot of, traction.
Well, and it was interesting. People loved it, or they were not a fan of what the guys were saying.
Yeah,
which is interesting because, I'm evil enough. I'll go back and look at profiles, and it's interesting. The challenge seems to be generational.
Oh.
And I even hear this from friends that are my own age. Like, when I started doing public speaking, and if I used the word queer before it was popular, those were fighting words.
Yeah.
And people would, especially if there were older gay people in the audience, they were just like indignant at the idea of that word being used.
Yeah.
And so now when we get into like the gender politics and gender identities, right? It's almost as if people kind of reach this place of they just can't comprehend it, and so they shut it down.
They shut it down. Yeah.
Which I think is unfortunate. I've kind of made this decision that as I become a senior citizen, that I really want to be open. I don't want to be that old person that's saying that's not how we used to do things. Right? I'm curious about the evolution of identity and how we take the magic of who we are and incorporate it and integrate it into the world. And I think when people shut that down, it just concerns me. To me, that's no different than how politics are playing out right now.
Right. If it doesn't match your politics or match your how you walk through life, then it's easily displaced and critiqued, and and I want to say poo-pooed. It's just
right.
Which is very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
So what I found interesting is I felt like primarily people supported that episode, but there was a population, maybe 20%, that struggled with it.
Yeah, which makes me want to actually come back to that topic and maybe bring those folks back, or maybe other trans folks or young people or whatever, because if it's shaking up people, that's kind of that's not our full intent, but in a way it is. It's like, let's get you, let's present something to you that's maybe a little uncomfortable, or just you haven't looked at before or heard about before, and hear some people have an open conversation about it, just to give you some insight, and maybe even change your perspective or change your mind on something. So I think, we might want to go back and see, so look at those comments on that particular episode, maybe some others that may have provoked some kind of, charge with folks, and maybe revisit.
Yeah. we're not done.
We're not done.
Were there any other ones that stuck out as controversial?
Let me think. I think you got some comments. Maybe it was more personal comments. I don't know if it was online or not. But when we had the gentleman from Morning Wood.
Oh, yeah. How could you? Because I like to talk to people who don't always think like I do.
Yeah. But I think that, that episode actually got a lot of traction online as well. But other ones too, like some of I can't think of the ones specifically, but just think when we do talk about coming out or radical self-acceptance and things like that, those get some traction too.
Yeah.
Because I'll get comments saying, "Oh, and that's good job," or "I hadn't thought about that," or "Yeah, that's right on," things like that.
So is it just me? But I feel like when we talk about actual legitimate sexual activity, performance issues, like when we had Shay on the show, which I think there were some audio challenges with that, but that the topic seemed to get a lot of people's attention. They're very interested in it, and of course Shay was talking about managing sexual challenges in the bedroom,
right?
And so the way that I read that is, we know there are issues out there that are relevant to our lives and existence, but there's some kind of shame or something that says, "Oh, I can't really talk about this." And in many cases, I mean, some of the research would suggest that gay men in particular have a hard time talking to healthcare providers. I know right now we have an organization that has an openly gay doctor, and I think they're getting a lot of clients from gay men because now we have someone we can talk to about butt health and dick health and the rest.
Exactly.
Right. And I remember the very first time I was looking for it. This is back in the 1800s. After they took the leeches off my skin, we were having this conversation. The very first time I went to a doctor, I had changed insurances and needed to have a new primary care physician. I got referred to this guy, and everything felt very heterosexist. Like I just thought, "Ooh, this feels very straight."
Yeah.
And so the guy said, "Is there anything that I should know about your health or about your life that would help me be your doctor?" I said, "Yeah, I'm an openly gay man." And I watched his reaction. It was a very physical reaction, like that.
Eyes went kind of boink.
He almost kind of backed up in the room. And I even said, "Is that going to be a problem?" And he goes, No. Have you had an HIV test?" And I looked at him and I said, "Wow, is that a standard question for all your clients, or just when you find out they're gay?"
Yeah, interesting. You went right to that.
Yeah. And but what I knew immediately was this was not going to be my primary care physician. And I later found one who, even though he was straight, he was a very visible and vocal ally in our community. But I think we've had enough of those experiences that somewhere we just we shut down. And then, of course, queer culture, gay culture does not necessarily, you've got to have the six-pack and the packs, and you got to perform like a porn star all the time. And that sends a message too, that if I'm less than that, do I talk to my buddies about it? Do I let my friends know? Do I talk that over with my sexual partner?
Yeah.
Right. So there's all these challenges. So I think when we had Shay on here, because on that episode we talked about some very specific situations.
Yeah.
And I just noticed on Instagram and TikTok in particular, those clips went viral. They were pretty big.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of people sharing them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What I liked about that conversation was there was a lot of normalizing
Yeah.
Because he just seemed, I mean, even just the conversation, we did it on Zoom if you couldn't tell, but we did it on Zoom if you watched it. But he had a very easygoing temperament, and just normalized everything, just the anxiety that one does experience in and out of the bedroom, and how he opens up with people and gets them to talk and everything. It just seemed very welcoming, and I really like that, and that's one of the reasons why I like that episode, and want more of that. I mean, want more guests like that, or when we talk about these kinds of topics, especially when they seem to provide a charge, that we can discharge it a little bit and normalize some of these things. So it makes it easier, hopefully, for people to have these conversations, and that seems like this is what this is all about: being able to enters a situation, whether it's sexual or social, and not be so overwhelmed by your own anxiety about it, but normalize it. We're all feeling this, so let's just get together and let's just talk about it. It's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I just noticed, and Shay's, I think, is running currently. It's like we haven't. Today is the first episode that follows Shay's.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. I think Travis. We kind of got into this with Travis.
Oh yeah, we
too.
did. We certainly
did.
And
I think that had a pretty popular response.
Yes. Yeah. So I love when certainly when we have these conversations about sexual expression and things like that, but when we can bring in folks like Travis, we want to have on again, or Shay, or even Kevin and Landon from Morningwood, just to kind of normalize these things, and give what I like about each of them, especially when we have a guest, they give us different vocabulary too, different ways of wording things and expressing things that might resonate with our listeners out there, because we may say it in a certain way. We might even say it more clinically, or I have more of a yogic way of talking about things and things like that. But if bring in another person, here's another way of looking at this. And that, I think that got a lot of traction too, with Travis Matthews. That was a good one. One of my favorite episodes, we did it early in the years when we did it. Just reminded me of the town hall, because we had the conference, the Generations Conference. And we brought Nick back, and we took it on the road, and we did that episode live, basically, with a group, and did it in a conference. I like that, and I think that gave us a little bit of practice on how it might be to do a town hall, even though they weren't really a part of the conversation fully. I think that's what we wanted, but there was just too big of a group. But because we talked about coming out and just some dynamics, and what was wonderful, because it was a mix of people as far as orientation, how they must have felt some comfort in being in a podcast episode enough to share their personal stories, because there was some really personal, heart felt stories that people shared about, very personal, and I applauds to them, which gave me some I guess just a positive vibe on, I think we're on the right track here.
Well, it's interesting. Because people do open up. And I think what's happened culturally, think about life before social media. You were 12. But, right, life before social media was about the sound bites, right? So if you were going to be interviewed on some kind of a show or something, you couldn't really give like a full-on detailed discussion about something. You had to figure out how to be specific and be a soundbite. Right. And then social media came on board, and we all became experts at the soundbite.
And you can just create their soapbox and platform and just
right. And so but our society has moved away. Think about even customer service. I was thinking about this the other day. If you can get past the AI, then you have to get past, right, some operator. But customer service is not set up for dialogue. It's not set up for community. It's right. And our culture has kind of moved away from this to the point that I think people are hungry to be witnessed.
Yes.
To be heard. Right. And so, like, when we were in that conference and the three of us are sitting there, I think all three of us at some point got tearful about something.
Yeah.
But that lent itself permission to the audience to be more intimate, to be more connected. And whether they were gay or not, they were still part of community because they were able to hear and witness,
yes,
as well as participate.
Yeah.
Which I would hope is a template that we're using with the podcast in terms of an invitation. My fantasy, and I hear this sometimes from people, my fantasy is that people will listen to our podcast, show up with their buddies for their Sunday brunch, and think, did you hear what John and Jerry were talking about? They're so full of shit. Well, what do you think about that? And then there would be dialogue.
There's dialogue. There's a conversation.
Yeah. And I have actually heard, there are times where I will get a text from a friend saying, wow, you must be popular. I was like, what do you mean? Because, oh, we're talking about your podcast here at lunch.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, that's exactly what it's designed to do.
Yes, good.
But think about the power. First of all, just think about, when was the last time I really felt heard and witnessed in my true voice? And I would argue that has shifted significantly over the last 15, 20 years. And that then the byproduct then is this deep need to be witnessed. So Instagram and Facebook become really popular with us taking pictures, and right, we're always showing up in a particular way in those pictures. And I think it leaves people hungry. I think it also becomes fright. I think the thing that challenges people to coming to the retreats is the unknown and a sense of, will they be able to connect? Because it's so foreign to our existence.
Yeah, so true.
I mean, I remember going to the gym, and it was communal. Like, you connected with people and visited, and then we got earpods.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it is interesting. There are people who I know, but and I catch that because I'm in my earpods too, and I will miss people. And it is nice to be focused on why I'm there, but I also think, like, there's something sad about that commentary too.
Yeah. You're absolutely right in regards to, people are hungry. They're starved for this kind of connection, to be seen, to be heard, to be witnessed. And I think in part, we've had conversations about this in some previous episodes where, what does that look like? How it's structured even? To, like, being a good listener, if someone is speaking, let them speak, and so that they are heard, and can then a person is perhaps more likely to be a little bit more vulnerable, especially when the flip side is they don't feel judged, they don't feel belittled, etc. They're just heard and held, even.
Yeah.
Maybe not physically, but certainly just held. The space is held, and I'm with you, brother. I'm with you, sister, and I'm here for you and with you. I think we are so starved for that. Starved for that. And I get this a lot too, just for my classes. People want to come to my my tantra classes, and are very curious and feel like it can be helpful. But one of the stories, one of the narratives that they get wrapped up in is, will I fit in?
Mm.
Will I be accepted?
Yeah.
And what I'm able to reassure them with, because it's showing up in every circle that I do with these guys, is that, because they're saying, I'll ask people, especially the ones that come back to my class, is like, what brings you back? What are you gaining from this? And share that so the new people can hear. And they all say, I love the community. I feel accepted here. There's a brotherhood. All those things. There's not judgment. You can look around the room. We all look different. We're different ages. We're different sizes. We're different ethnicities. This is what community looks like. So I'm able to respond to potential students if they email me, like, will I fit in? Like, yes, because, and I can give that list of what other people have experienced in my classes. And I think, yeah, you're right. That's what we're designing with Mindfully Gay, with the podcast, with our socials, definitely with the retreat.
I wonder how maybe what we do is we create audiences. At the town hall meeting is one concept, but I wonder what would happen if we. I got the juices flowing.
Get the juices flowing. Yeah, I mean, we
gay group therapy on Mindfully Gay.
Hit some hot buttons and things like that, and just get people thinking. Because I see clips all the time. I'm on YouTube all the time, and I ran across one clip and like, how did this even come across my feed? And who even produced this? But it was someone just did an experiment, and they got like 6 straight guys, and they paired them up in different filming occasions, and they didn't know each other, but their task was to kiss, to get these 2 straight guys to kiss. And that drew me in, like, okay, what's this all about, right? So I leaned in, and it was interesting because they said, well, before they even kissed, like, well, what's coming up? What are you thinking? Like, well, it feels like there's going to be some backlash, or people might think I'm gay, or just all these things. And what if feelings come up, right? And so these guys kissed, and like, well, what was it like? Like, well, it just felt like kissing. There wasn't anything astronomical.
Well, they weren't doing it right.
But it just made me think of just pushing some of those hot buttons and getting people charged up a little bit, because it sparks a conversation.
Well, let's go to the gym. Let's get like 6 straight guys. And let's film it.
Okay.
Then we'll talk about it.
And then we'll talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. But these are great ideas as far as kind of looking forward and what we could bring to the podcast, like the town hall, like these little hot button topics, person on the street kind of things. These small circles, or find an audience, certainly more guests. What else could we do?
Well, we certainly have a list of topics. I do like the idea, and maybe you and I need to talk about equipment wise, but I do think there are different events that it would just be nice to go up and get people's like on the street opinion.
Yeah, because there are a lot of because maybe think, because you went to Leather Pride, right?
Yeah,
and that could have potentially been a place of doing a person on the street kind of thing, and hey, I'm with Mindfully Gay, and whatnot, and just do a little bit with that.
And what are you wearing?
Who are you wearing? And what is that? Where can I get one of those?
Is that one size fits all?
At Pride, there's different gay events that certainly happen here. Why not? Or just kind of in general. We certainly have interviewed people on our own. You've interviewed people, I've interviewed people, maybe even just more of that. We just kind of capture a moment.
Yeah.
And either we bring them on as a guest, or we use that as a clip or a sound bite for something as a way to, spark a conversation.
Charles is going to be here January 5th.
Oh.
Through the 17th.
Yes, we had him on last year. We should have him on
People
again.
Loved it, didn't
Yes, yeah. That was
Charles is 92 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Will probably live another 80. But we call him the Wizard.
Yeah.
And he's so provocative and
so full of knowledge.
Yeah.
And he just had this wonderful experience. Where was he? Where he did his work? Overseas in Finland, right? Yeah. Just worldly. And yeah, we definitely need to bring the Wizard back on.
Yeah.
And other folks like that. And this is also an invitation, to you guys, our listeners, our viewers. What have we not talked about? What would you like us to talk about? Put it in the comments as far as, hey, have you guys thought about talking about this, that, or the other? Hey, can you get someone that represents X in the community and bring them on as a guest?
Yeah.
So let us know on all the platforms, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just leave us a comment. You can keep it anonymous even, because we just keep a kind of a running list. And if we have the capability, especially with equipment, and I think that's an upgrade I think we will make this year, upgrade our equipment so we can do these kinds of things, so we can have audiences, so we can do a roving reporter kind of thing.
Why don't we just do like a construction? We'll make like a sound booth right here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because I see these, I see some folks, famous people, like Michelle Obama and her brother have a podcast. And it's just this like a little living room. It's just a set, it was just a little living room set with some good lighting. And that's all it really takes. And some good mics. We're almost there. We've been doing this for 2 years on an iPhone and some, lavalier mics. We'll upgrade for you guys.
Well, I enjoy doing the podcast. I enjoy that people seem to be responding to it. I love what we're trying to create with Mindfully Gay. This is an invitation for people here in the Utah community to maybe they have ideas. The events don't have to be organically from me or you.
Right.
Right. Maybe somebody does sound baths, or maybe somebody is a trainer, or maybe somebody. We had someone a while ago, but I think they've changed their mind, suggest a quilting circle.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, the website's flexible enough that we could add these things and help promote them in such a way that, 4 or 5 people showing up for an event is community.
Is community, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've thrown it out there. Maybe you've heard it on some of our audio podcasts. We have a couple of advertisements. If you have a business or you want to promote something, it could even just be an event, or like you said, maybe you're a personal trainer or a nutritionist or something. You just want to kind of get the word out there. Send us your information and we'll create an ad for you that we can read the ad, or we can get your vocals and put an ad up there for you. Happy to do that. We want to, we certainly want to amplify and lift up our community. And that's just another way that we can do that.
Yeah. So it's been a good year.
It's been a really good year. Really good year for Mindfully Gay. And like I said, it's been therapeutic for me. It's, because yes, it's been a good year, and it's not been a good year in other aspects, but this has helped me to feel grounded and connected. When the feelings and things have come up, we've been able to integrate them into a topic and talk about them. And certainly when we have our events like our retreats and things, again, it's more just healing opportunities, getting together and having community. So like I said, it's been healing and helpful for me. I enjoy doing this. I'm going to get emotional about it now. I certainly want to continue doing this. I love doing this with you, Jerry. And anyone who wants to be a part of this growing experience and healing experience, you are very welcome to join us.
Yeah. Now, John, I just want to call attention to this wonderful sweatshirt you're wearing.
Oh, yes.
Oh, look, it's a hoodie.
Yes.
And it fits so nice.
Doesn't it? And it's so warm, in our winter months.
What's it say on the front?
On the front, very proudly, it says mindfully gay. And on the back, I think it says mindfullygay.com, I think, on the back. But it says definitely a hoodie.
It says nothing.
Oh, it doesn't? No. And with the little pocket in the front. So, hey, you can go to our website, go to our shop, and you can order yourself your warm, cozy, long sleeve hoodie in any color.
I think mine's green too.
No, yours is blue. You wanted a blue.
That's right.
Yours is blue. Mine's green.
They have gray.
Yes, but you can get. We do have some specific colors, but if there's a color that you like, that you want, maybe you want orange or yellow or pink, we can get it for you.
And maybe we'll have summer wear this year too.
Yes. What would you like? What do you want? You want some short shorts? You want a crop top?
Mindfully gay jock strap.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
Well, so I guess this is our last episode for the year.
Yes. Last episode. Is it? Yes, it is. Oh.
And this is our 50th episode.
Mm-hmm.
So join us next year where we will instill some of these ideas and these inspirations and bring it to you. And hopefully you will bring back the feedback so we will continue to grow.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Mindfully Gay podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. This way you won't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes where we continue to explore fascinating topics and share meaningful stories. Your support means the world to us. See you in the next episode.